You're listening to the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the place where you, as a dad, will gain more tools for your fathering toolbox, and where moms and daughters are also invited to listen into the conversation. Now, here is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Hello and welcome back to the Dad Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, and I welcome you here again today, Dad, especially if you're a father who wants to add more tools to your fathering toolbox. Well, you know the grid I use every week, which is simply on your mark, get set, go. On your mark is the topic or the theme. Get set, I'm going to fill that in with stories and stats, and go is always your practical action step so that you can put your love for your daughters and even your sons into action this week. Well, today I have a guest coach joining me who is a man I've learned more from than I can even begin to tell you. His name is Dr. Curt Thompson. He's a psychiatrist who provides what he calls faith-informed therapy and psychiatric care. I just got to tell you, that is a rare combination, and that is why I've invited him here today, because we have so much to learn from this seasoned wise man that I have learned so much from, mainly through the American Association of Christian Counselors conference, where I've attended his workshops, heard him lead plenaries, and I have so enjoyed learning from him over the last decade. And finally today, I have the privilege of having him here on the podcast joining us. Well, let me tell you just a little bit more about him. He is also a national and international speaker, a best-selling author of many books that I have on my shelf that I've loved, and I want you guys to also go out, buy his books, because you will learn from him as much as I have if you really take the time to read what he's written, because it's deep and profound and life-changing. Some of my favorites are 1, The Anatomy of the Soul, 2, The Deepest Place, Suffering and the Formation of Hope, and a third one that I love is The Soul of Shame, retelling the stories we believe about ourselves. He co-hosts a fantastic podcast called the Being Known podcast. I have listened to so many of the episodes, and I'm telling you, if you want what I'll even call free therapy, I would encourage you to go back, listen to his podcasts. And this last season has been all on one theme, ruptures and repair, which is the theme of our conversation today. So I'll give you that little tease here at the front end. He co-hosts the Being Known podcast, which I absolutely love. I highly recommend it. I've listened to so many of his podcasts, and every single time I take notes and learn things. In fact, the last season has been all on the theme that we are going to cover today, which is all on rupture and repair. So I'm giving you that little tease here to know that's the theme today. And it's profound to hear from Dr. Curt because he has walked his talk. He knows this area so deeply in his own life, personally and also professionally. He also provides organizational consulting, and all of this is in addition to his private clinical practice at New Story Behavioral Health Clinic in Falls Church, Virginia, where he is referred to as the Chief Purpose Officer. How's that for a title? CPO of that organization. Curt and his wife Phyllis live outside of Washington, D.C., and they have 2 adult children, Rachel, the oldest, and Nathan, both in their 30s. And that simply means that he is a bona fide girl dad and he's one of us. Welcome, Dr. Curt Thompson. I'm so honored that you're here today as we now head into On Your Mark, When Things Fall Apart, a dad's path for leading the way back through repair. Now, let's head into the conversation. So On Your Mark is When Things Fall Apart, a dad's path for leading the way through repair. And now to my first question for you. Get set. Here we go. Well, today we're talking about a concept that I want everyone, first of all, to know you covered thoroughly in your last season of your podcast, the Being Known podcast, on ruptures and repair. It is so profound. If any dad listening says, I want to do a deeper dive into knowing how to bring repair into my family system, I say go and listen back to the entire season because it's phenomenal. So Dr. Curt, could you begin just by setting the foundation for dads of maybe understanding why their role is so vital when it comes to leading the way with their daughters in terms of repairing ruptures.
Yeah, and Michelle, let me first say that I'm just so delighted to be on your podcast. I'm just it's just such an honor to be here, and I just want to affirm all the work that you're doing, and that you are creating space for fathers to become more of who God envisions them to become. And so it's just really great to be with you. I'll
Thank
just
you.
say that 100 times. But let me just say this: I tend to approach that question actually from a biological standpoint. As we like to say in our world of interpersonal neurobiology, and not just in that world, but in other worlds have named this, that mothers become parents long before fathers do.
Okay.
They are
Right.
pregnant with a child. They carry the child. They're so forth and so on. And there is also we're all very familiar, kind of anecdotally, with how it is that when children come into the world, mothers almost feel there. As an observer, you see, like there's this almost automatic bond that happens that a mom almost doesn't have any choice in the matter. Like and
Right.
like no wonder like this thing has come out of her own body. Like how it's hard for her to not love this child.
Right.
And in fact, when you look at data about parents and children, when you think about how mothers and fathers approach their children, one of the things that we know is that it is rare for a mom to leave her children.
Right.
When moms leave their kids, they often do so because of either A, they've got some kind of neuropsychiatric or addiction problem going on, or some kind of accident or other feature has that. So it's a neuropsychiatric or an addiction problem that kind of takes them out of the picture. Rarely do moms leave their children. Fathers leave their kids all the time. They leave their kids all the time. And one of the things that we would correlate with that, now we're not just saying this is causality completely, but correlation is important. And that is that fathers can leave their kids, and you know how this works. Mom will raise the kid after dad has left, and at some point, the kid will say to the mom, I want to go find my dad. And the mom is apoplectic. She's like, what do you mean you want to go find you mean the father who left when you were 3 and has not been back in your life, and all the many ways in which men can leave. But one of the things that we find then is that men don't have to have neuropsychiatric problems. Men don't have to have drug addiction problems in order for them to leave. They leave because they're men who themselves, they are fathers who themselves were not fathered well enough, who were not mothered well enough. They are leaving out of their own unrepaired ruptures.
Yeah.
And so what we find then is that when a father loves their child, the child will look at the father and have the felt sense that I'm being loved on purpose. Mom, like automatic. When moms fail their kids, like truly do, the kid will say, yeah, she had a drug problem. Yeah, she was depressed. Right. Dads, when they fail their kids will say, yeah, I wasn't enough.
Exactly.
Kids will talk about, daughters in particular, but sons as well, will talk about, there's something that, like, there's something about me that's a problem here. Yeah. And so we have all kinds of stories in which this is true. And so what we say, when it comes to repairing ruptures, it's important for fathers to know from the beginning, even before we get to the rupture piece, that your role as a dad in intentionally loving your children is neurobiologically different than that of your child's mother. And so we have to love on purpose, because like men, we are out wandering around. We don't, like, just like Adam in the garden. Where is he in the conversation when the snake is having the conversation with Eve? Where is this guy? And then, God asks him, and he throws his wife under the bus, and then Abraham does the same thing. Like they're all troubled in this way. David, like, he's got 3, how many wives does David have? Right there? Okay. All this is to say is that the need for our initiating repair of ruptures with our children doesn't come just because there are ruptures. It becomes our role as an initiator is neurobiologically built in from the beginning. And part of our challenge is that as men, we don't have the felt sense of what it has been like for somebody else to initiate contact with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't have much practice in being able to name what the ruptures are in my life that need to be repaired, for which I need someone else to come and initiate that repair. I cannot give what I do not have. And so to the fathers who either A, are not aware of, not curious about the ruptures that they may have created in their families, or B, they are aware and they long to be able to repair them, but they don't know how. I want to say first and foremost that in order for you to do good work in repairing ruptures with your kids, it begins with being curious about where are the ruptures in your own life that need to be repaired that haven't yet been.
Mm-hmm.
I can't give what I don't have. And so the first item of business is around the question of, to fathers, whose job is it to take care of you? That's a question that we have to answer. I can't give what I don't have. I meet with 3 men every Tuesday morning, and there are 2 other men who are in my covenant group. These are 5 separate men. And between these 5 men and a handful of other relationships that I have with men, and a couple of women as well, my spiritual director, who's a woman, if I don't have these people, I'm a dead man. Like, I'm not going to repair ruptures with my 35-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
If I do not have the felt sense that I'm being cared for on a regular basis.
And known deeply, right?
By definition, when I say cared for, I mean that I am being deeply known, meaning these are men and women who know the depths of my soul and who are not just giving me the felt sense of being seen and soothed, but they are also placing demands on me.
Mm.
They are also summoning me into a world in which I'm becoming more than who I'm afraid I'm able to be. I need that kind of work. And if that's the case, if I am doing the work of allowing my shame to be healed, allowing my ruptures to be repaired, even if it means we're talking about people who've created ruptures who might even be dead, but I still have work to do in that regard. If I am in spaces where that can happen for me, then I can begin to take important steps toward being curious with my kids about, first of all, I'd like to hear where, if you were to tell me, if I were to talk to my daughter, can you name where there's any unfinished business that we have? Because if you can, I want to hear about it.
That's a courageous question to ask.
It's a terrible and it's a terrifying question, because like, what father wants to like set themselves up for what their kids might actually say? Right. But it's the practice of being vulnerable ourselves.
Yeah.
Where is it that I have been less for you than you've wanted me to be? Where have I been more for you than you've needed me to be in ways that have been unhelpful? My willingness to see that at the end of the day, as we like to tell, I'm working with adult patients, people who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s and 60s, who have parents. And the people who are in my office are the ones who, like, this, the people who are in your office are the ones who are doing the work.
Right.
And they might come and say, well, gosh, I want a better relationship with my dad. What should I be doing? And they're the ones who are feeling like they're holding the responsibility for this. And we say, here's the challenging news. And that is that until my parent, no matter how old they are, until my parent is either medically or cognitively unable to be my parent, they are my parent. And the power gradient only ever goes one direction. If I'm the parent, it means I am ultimately responsible for initiating the care and concern of this relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that my daughter at some point, something might come up and she has, something, she has a beef with me about something she did that I might not know about, and she brings it up. I then need to be the one who is aware, like, oh, this is my responsibility to enter into this from the standpoint of being one who sees his role as an agent of repairing ruptures. That's a long-winded answer to your question.
That is so powerful, because so much of what you said were some of the things I was gonna ask you about that power gradient, and,
Mm,
the one that initiates is the one that's in that position. Even if a
mhm,
dad has said, "But you don't understand, it's my daughter that's hurt me." And you've even
mhm,
talked about that, saying,
mhm,
it's still up to you as the
mhm,
dad, as the
mhm,
parent, to
mhm,
initiate. And I love one of your quotes. It's one of my favorite ones of yours, is how
mm,
we all come into the world looking for someone, looking for us.
mhm,
Can you
mhm,
tie that to this way that you're speaking to other dads of daughters,
mhm,
dads of
mhm,
sons, saying,
mhm, mhm,
here's a vital need you have. And if
mhm.
that need wasn't met, you may struggle to give that to your children and to your daughter specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Michelle. You have had the opportunity to work with many, many fathers as I have, and my take is that men, for the most part, if you press them, they'll say, yes, I know, I'm important in my daughter's life. I
Yeah.
know that. But if you ask them, what is your felt sense? What do you sense your degree of meaning is in your daughter's life? They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't feel them. They know that they are important to earn money, to pay for bills, all the things that they can
Mhm.
do. But men have a hard time imagining that their very presence, just their presence, they walk in the room, that their presence is the thing that their kids need more than anything.
Right.
This felt sense of it. My kids their life is going to be better because I am attuning to them. And not just because somebody, but because I, their father, am initiating attunement.
Right.
I want to make sure. I mean, many fathers may or may not be aware that, like, okay, you have a daughter who's in college, or you have a daughter who's in her 20s or maybe even her 30s. And you're like, and you're the kind of father who has raised a daughter who's doing really well. And you like,
Uh-huh.
well, I don't know that she needs to hear from me. Like, "Oh, look, she's doing really well." Yeah. Call your daughter once a week.
Yeah.
Call your daughter. And you say, I just want to check in and see how you're doing.
Yeah.
And you might think like, gosh, but I don't know that I don't know how to have a conversation. I don't know what to ask. I'm like, fair enough. You could call your daughter and say, like, I just want to connect with you. I'm not even really sure I know what to ask, but I know that I want you to hear that I really love you and I want to be connected to you. I'm not really sure what to ask, but it's like, so let's just say, like, tell me what it's like for you to hear me say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's an action step for a lot of dads. Play this back, write it down, say exactly what Dr. Curt just told you to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's it like to
Yeah.
hear me
So,
say that?
right. There is so much, and this is the thing. Like I mean, humans in general, but men have their own particular way of going about this, in which I live unbelieving. I do not
Mm.
believe that my presence in the world, my presence, uh, is all that meaningful for people. Oh yes, I
Mhm.
believe that the money that I provide in the house and all the
Yeah.
things that I do for people, but it's all very transactional. And if you were to ask fathers, like, no, it's not transactional. I mean, if you were to ask, they'll answer the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
They'll provide the right answers. But for many of them,
Mm.
their felt sense
Mhm.
of the depth of the meaning of their presence and their attunement,
Mhm.
it is not something that has come to their attention. They have not yet felt
Mhm.
the heft
Yeah.
of the attunement that they provide to their
Mhm.
children. And that's because they have not yet felt attuned to themselves.
Yeah. Right. Or didn't have a father that modeled that, right?
That's right. That's right. That attunement is not a thing that, oh, I either happen to pick up or I don't. This is something that
Mhm.
requires intentional behavior that is
Yes.
directed at me by somebody else.
Exactly.
And enough so that at some point they ask me the question, so what's it like for you that I'm attuning to you? Then I get nervous, right? Because now you're Now you're actually, this is like live action. This is like no, you're actually talking with me about you and me while we're together. I'd rather we just go off and think about it in the abstract. Right. And you're like, well, okay, but like, what are you going to do when heaven gets here? And Jesus asks you this very question. What's it like for you to be with me here in this house? You're like, can I get back to you? We've got a lot of time here. You get back to me on that.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation with Dr. Curt Thompson. We'll be right back.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Dr. Curt Thompson, and the title of our conversation today is When Things Fall Apart, a Dad's Path for Leading the Way Back Through Repair.
Yeah.
So what does the dad do then who wants to have that conversation and he hears you saying, okay, sit down from your daughter and ask her this. But what if the bridge is already bombed out between them and he doesn't know how to rebuild it because, as we use the word, rupture is so massive that what my conclusion has been from I call it traveling to Mars for 16 years, is that men would often rather do nothing than do it wrong. And I say, but doing nothing is doing it wrong. And I know you want to do it right. So talk to that dad that says, I don't even know where to start because I don't want to do it wrong and make it worse. And I'm not good at repair. So I've just concluded that I'm going to sit here and wait it out.
Yeah. You know, Michelle, we could probably talk for a long time about the role that shame plays in our stories and our lives. And this is one of those places. My notion, and it's not just with my kids, it's in any relationship. It's, I want to make sure that I'm able to, wherever there is a problem, I want to make sure that I get it right in solving the problem. So I'd like to have all the math worked out. I want all the equations, I want all the plans, and then we'll build the bridge. But life isn't like that. We build the airplane as we fly it. And if I'd like to be able to know that, gosh, okay, I suspect that this is the rupture, and I'm going to go listen to Michelle give a talk, and then I'm going to listen to that talk multiple times on the video recording that we got from the church, and then I'm going to go and once I get it, everything packaged wrapped, then I'll go talk to my daughter. As if we are not aware. Why does God choose to work with humans? Why doesn't he just like fix us all? No, because he's serious about our partnership. He really wants us to become, he doesn't just want us to do the right thing. He wants to become certain kinds of people. And Jesus is not worried about all these benchmarks that we have to make. He's not worried. He's too busy just trying to get us to be in the game. He wants us to be in the game. Right. And so this again is like we have so men in particular are so unaware of the power that we wield in our capacity to initiate even the smallest of things. Some of our men listening to this, some of our fathers listening to this, will know, if you're an engineer in particular, especially if you're a mechanical engineer, you'll understand the concept of torque. And torque means that if you have a lot of torque if you have a lot of torque on a system, it means you can have the handle of whatever this thing is that you're turning. If it's a long handle, you can push it just a very little ways, and it moves things. Or mass effect. If you have a locomotive coming at you at 3 miles an hour, you can't stop it, not because of its velocity, but because of how heavy it is. This is what fathers bring. Fathers bring torque. We bring mass effect. And that means that you don't have to do a big thing. You can do a small thing. But because it's you who's doing it, it has large effects. And so what does that mean? We say, like, the rupture has been horrible and I don't know what to do. You know what? You could call your daughter, you could call your child, and of course they're going to see it's you calling, and they're not going to answer the phone because they're not ready to talk to you yet. But in the voicemail, you say, I know I've screwed up, and I want to make this right. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do it, but I'm working on it. I hope you'll let me try. 7 seconds. Yeah. That's what it takes. Now, you'd say, like,
there you go.
Could you please call me, text me, so that we can talk? And I don't hear anything. A week later, hey, I'm just calling back because I really want you to know that I'm really sorry about how I've screwed things up. I'm working on my end of the things that I need to do differently. I just want to let you know. And I'd love to do this with you if you're willing to do it. Here are the things that I'm working on about my side of the road where I know that I screw this up.
So he's going into more vulnerability that second time.
Yeah. He might be a little more vulnerable, but you're not trying to leave her, you're not giving her a soliloquy. You're not giving her like a 30-page handout. You're just like, right. It's a 30 second. Now it's 30 seconds. Now, there's no question, that we live in an era, Michelle, in which for some adult kids, the culture is more than happy to say to kids, you've been traumatized, and so there's no need for you to get back in, to have conversation with that person. And it's true that
so much
there's some
cutoff being encouraged now.
Right. Yeah. And there may be some who are listening to this for whom I understand, like setting limits with your parents because they've been super abusive. Like, that's one thing, but that's not a decision that we just make in a moment, right? These are things of discernment. But I do want to say that, our posture of humility as fathers, like, I'm aware that I am imperfect. Here are the things that I'm responsible for. I want to name the things I'm responsible for, and recognize that, once again, whether you think, oh yeah, but it was my daughter who said X, Y, and Z. Like, it is important to remember, it doesn't matter. You are the parent. Yeah. Imagine, if you will, that child was 3 years old instead of 23 years old. And that child has just done something, or maybe even 13. That would be even better. That child has said something or done something that has hurt your feelings. And like, everybody knows, everybody who's in the room, they know, yeah, it was your daughter who like did whatever. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do anything until she comes and apologizes. Like, better. You're like, no, she's 13. I'm the parent. I know, like, her 13-year-old brain was doing whatever. I have a responsibility here to initiate this. Even if she's the one who's hurt me, I want to come and say, I want things to be right for us, things to be good for us. But especially when I'm aware that there are things that I've done. And if I think there isn't anything that I've done, I still want to be curious about that. I really want to hear from you. What do you think it is? What is it that you know that I've done? I want to be open to this. I want to hear it. Please let me know.
That's powerful. Can you even share a little bit about how you have really walked this out with your daughter, Rachel? Like, through the years, can you think of a time where you've had to humble yourself and do this kind of question and ask?
Yeah, well,
conversation.
I will tell you this, Michelle. I have not had a rupture with my daughter. Don't get me wrong. There have been minor ruptures where I have like raised my voice, or I have said something snarky, and I have to go back and say, I should not have behaved that way. I'm really sorry. When I said that to you the way I said that to you, I am really sorry. But I will tell you, I'll tell you real quickly a story with my son, who's 32, and it happened to be my son. It could have been my daughter, but he was. This is a guy who, when he was in 8th grade, came to me and said, Dad, I don't know what it is between you and Mom and Rachel that you like this whole Jesus thing. Like, I get that, but like that's just not my jam. And I just want you to know, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know. Like, the whole like behavioral model, I get that, but like, I don't. Okay, 8th grade, he comes and says this, and I'm thinking like, this is great because like I was a guy who had all kinds of like angsting and existential questions and so forth. Turns out, within a couple of years, this guy comes to Jesus, like, and Jesus just like captures him. He's a sophomore. Fast forward, he's a sophomore in college, and he runs into another existential crisis. Sophomore in college, and we had a conversation when he was home for Christmas break, and I was so looking forward to the conversation because he was like really angsting about this. I'm like, I'm going to be the dad who is there for him in a way that nobody was there for me when I was his age, and angsting over these things. And Michelle, I don't know where the demon came from, but in the course of this 2-hour conversation with him about 2 or 3 days before he's supposed to leave to go back for his spring semester, I lost my mind. And by the time we were done, I was basically communicating to him, look, if you're not going to follow Jesus, you with all of your smarts and all of your education, I think that you're an idiot. Now, I didn't use those words.
Okay.
I was far more subtle and therefore far more hurtful in what I communicated to him. And, it's the kind of thing where like, when you're saying things that you shouldn't be saying, but you become aware that your words are now going to try to get out of your mouth before you have a chance to keep them from leaving your mouth. This is what was happening to me. And the wound was like nothing I've ever experienced with either of my kids. And the next day was just crushing for me and for him. We both knew, like forever, like I've just had the most, deeply meaningful relationship with both of my kids. And it was really horrible. He went off to school. I spent the next several weeks in agony. I talked to him every couple of weeks, and I would be saying things like, gosh, because I realized, like, at the end of the day, on the surface, it looks like I'm upset because you're making a decision about faith that I think is like, not smart enough. When in fact, what's really upsetting to me in that moment is he's making decisions that are evoking in me some sense of two things. One is I didn't do a good enough job as a dad to get him prepared for this moment. And number two, I'm losing my boy. But I wasn't aware enough that that's what was really in play. And so I wounded him as a way to cope with my own stuff. And over the next several weeks and months, I had my own work to do with my own spiritual director around this question, like, what have I done? And what is it about me? Not what is it about Nathan? What is it about me that has me behaving in this? Like, I've got work to do here. And so over the next several months, we had this, I would say he'd come home for spring break and then for summer. And then before he went off, to his study abroad the following autumn, I'm worried because of what I'm afraid I've done that has created this rupture. And and I would say, are we okay? Are we okay? I'm so sorry. And I went back and said to him these words. I'd said, what I did is not about you. It's about my worry that I've not done a good enough job as a dad. It's about my worry that I'm losing you, that I'm losing touch with you, that I'm like, I'm the reason you felt horrible that night is because of me. Like, I'm the reason for it.
Wow.
And he was able, and I would say in a timely way, he's able to enter into forgiveness and all that. But, by the time we got to the autumn, and I'm still worried. And I said, are we okay? And he said, yeah, we're okay. But if you ask me one more time if we're okay, we're not going to be okay. And I said, okay. But I would say what was necessary in that regard, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to come and say, like, I've really screwed this up. I have screwed this up, which is why I have to have other people in my life to whom I can also go to and say, here's what I did to my son.
Yeah.
if I don't have a community like that, if I'm not in some kind of spiritual drive, if I don't have people who are regularly caring for me, it will be difficult for me to have the courage to own my own behavior that God needs to reform.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, like, if I don't have these other people, I'm a dead man. There would be more incidents like this. I can say now, our son, who's now 32, is just a deeply committed Jesus follower, and he and I have a remarkable relationship. But I think in no small part because he was willing to do the work of forgiveness, and there were other people who were able to come for me to help me get out of the pit.
That's powerful. And I think just to sum this up as we get ready to land the plane is that what I hear in what you're sharing today, Dr. Curt, is that you're giving men a bit of a map or a template of what this looks like, because they may not have had a dad that ever owned his stuff. And so therefore they're modeling to their children the very thing that was modeled to them that didn't work, that is still left wounds in them. And so you're modeling to men of this is a humble stance that may be even using your word embarrassing to have to admit that you did it wrong, but you've got to have other people in your life calling you to account. And I would love this to be a podcast that men play and share with their friends saying, let's be men who do it different in this generation. Because I believe that 20, 30, let's even say teenage daughters especially, are looking at reality, quote unquote, television, where you see a train wreck greater than your own, but there's no redemptive ending. And this is a redemptive path through a journey, whereas you have written in your amazing books about how a secure attachment with Jesus is everything. And if you don't have a secure attachment to Jesus as a grounding force in your life, men, maybe that's the place to start coming out of this conversation so that healing can come to you first. And I know there's so much more we could talk about, but I always end every show with a go step. We've talked about practical action steps. You've given men things to say, things to do, ways to begin working this out. But if you were to just say to dads, here's one last thing I want to say. If you want to take one step today in leading the way toward repairing a rupture with your daughter, what would you tell him from your heart to his?
Yeah, I would say that the step I would invite you to consider is coming in just a moment, but the step is grounded in the following: recognizing that in the first place, that the development of secure attachment requires that children experience the effective repair of ruptures. And so, fathers, I want you to hear that you're not just trying to get you and your kid to feel better. By repairing ruptures, you are actively, you're not just fixing something that's broken, you are creating the opportunity for your relationship to become stronger than it was even before the rupture took place. And so that's that torque that you, as the father who's coming to repair, like you are bringing power that you have no idea or could hardly imagine that you're bringing because you are the father, because you're not the mom who, like, of course you're going to do this, because you are the dad who could choose to do otherwise, but you choose them. And here's the action item, the step is this. It's related to something we were talking about before, but I find it to be a really helpful question that we can, on occasion, just with some degree of cadence, ask our children and ask them the question. I would really love to, you're going to talk to your child and you're going to say to them, I really want you to be unafraid to answer this question. What is it like for you to live with me?
I love that.
Begin there. What is it like for you to live with me? I'm not, you're not asking them, what do you think of me? Yeah. You're asking them, what is it like for you to live with me? Is it frightening to live with me? Is it confidence building to live with me? Is it a mixed bag to live with me? It takes a lot of courage for a father to ask this question, because you have to be prepared for your kids to say, well, now that you mention it, Dad, right? And our shame attendant will come and want to keep us from, but like, I want you to know that this is an opportunity for the Spirit to reveal things in ways that you can become even more of the loving presence that your children need.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart. Last question, where can people connect with you and find what you have to offer?
Yeah, well, Michelle, thanks so much. One way is through, we have a podcast called the Being Known Podcast, co-hosted by my friend Pepper Sweeney and our producer, Amy Chella. So the Being Known Podcast, you can find me on my website, curtthompsonmd.com. And then you can also follow us on social media with Instagram and Facebook. And if you're interested in some of the work that we're doing with development of these confessional communities that have really proven, I think, to be helpful for fathers and mothers, you can go to the Center for Being Known or thecbk.org and find out more about that there.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for joining me today. Oh, my heart is so filled up, and I'm so grateful for you joining me. Well, On Your Mark today has been When Things Fall Apart, a dad's path for leading the way back through repair. I'm so grateful to Dr. Curt Thompson for sharing his wisdom, his expertise, and his profound knowledge with us today. Well, this wraps up another week's program. It's been great to be here with you all. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the Dad Whisperer, signing off and encouraging you to make today a day where you intentionally and consistently invest in pursuing your daughter's heart. Go Dads!
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. If you're looking for more resources to support the father-daughter relationship, or if you want to connect personally with Dr. Michelle, you can find all the information you need at drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com. And remember, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.